Well, good morning. Back to 444. As a preface to this video, the title and the topic were selected because someone asked the question yesterday after watching my previous video. With all those contracts, we're going to need a whole bunch of lawyers to interpret things. Wrong. The title for this video is Common Law of Contracts. Common law contracts. Where did I get the word of? Even in the title, and I didn't even notice it. Common law contracts do not require attorneys is the title. In Admiralty or Maritime Law, everything is based on fiction. Said another way, it's all fraud. That's why attorneys are required in such a system. Liars work well in convoluted systems of doublespeak and misdirection. That's their playing field where they get to play out their role of subverting justice and maintaining a slavery system of extortion and coercion, ruled by force rather than consent. As long as that system remains in place, humanity will not find liberation. Common law contracts are common sense and written in plain language, easily understood by anyone with a decent mind. In fact, common law judges only need to be people of moral character and high ethical standards. To move into this arena would be embracing simplicity and removing consent to complicity, which is conspiracy to defraud. It's a whole new way of thinking, a new paradigm. Indeed, if you understood that the foundation, the very foundation of canon law, of admiralty law, of maritime law, of the system that is in place, the Uniform Commercial Code, and all of that structure, that entire edifice of our legal structure in this world is based on lies. It's fraud. It's not true. It's based on assumptions that people are dead. You have to understand that everything, I mean everything in this world, is based on trusts. There are divine, and trusts are basically divine, or supposed to be at their best. Ideally, they are divine instruments that protect the people from harm and from harming each other as much as possible. They are based on natural law. Do no harm, or do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Don't violate the free will of others. Natural law and international law is actually founded on the same principle, except it's dealing with larger entities, specifically nations. Nations are also not to violate the free will of other nations. But you know, if you've been paying attention, that this is not the way it works in the world in which we live. Now, there are people who continue to tell me that this is negative, that this is fear-based stuff that I'm sharing. And they say, just pretend, maybe not even they may not use the word pretend, but they're saying, consider it already done. Consider that we live in a perfect world. Consider that the only real thing is love and compassion and truth, and that nothing else matters. It's all just an illusion. Don't pay attention to that. Well, that's not where human experience is. And it's not where human experience has been for a long time. Human experience has been in the lie, in the corruption, in the fraud, in the deceptions. That's where we've experienced life and how we've experienced life. And as I've said many, many times in other videos, and I'm saying it again, you can't get there, the ideal, from there. You have to start here with the rudiments and the things that are on our plate that we are presented with to deal with. We have to start from where we are. Here is the only starting place. And it's the reality that we have to call by name and tell the truth about it, tell how it makes us feel, say what our role is in it, whether we're victims or victimizers. We need to come to terms with this and not avoid and deny and try to escape the reality of what we have created. And I say we because whether you're the victim or the victimizer, there are those archetypal elements within you because it's within all of the creation. All of the manifest creation contains the elements of that creation. It's a holographic universe. Each part contains the whole to whatever degree, but each part contains the whole. Now, attorneys I'm talking about the United States because I know more about that, but I believe it's probably international as well. Attorneys all work for bar associations. They are bar certified, which means they take an oath not to constitutions, not to the rights of the people, not to any level of moral decency and honesty. Quite the contrary. They take an oath to an organization, an institution of deception. The bar. Okay? It's a deception. Now, what are we going to do about this? Common law contracts do not, as I said in the blurb, need lawyers and judges. Can be ordinary people with no special training whatsoever because it's common sense. They make the system convoluted. They misdirect people. They use a different language where common words, are used with a different meaning so that it means one thing to the people that are part of the legal family, the legal corporation. Corporation itself is fraud. It's fraud, folks. It's a legal fiction. Any fiction is fraudulent. Understand that. Even by definition, it's fraud. And the trusts are set up that have the elements of natural law built into them, so that when these people are operating under color of law or de facto systems, which is what the governments and corporations all operate under, they are committing crimes against humanity because they are breaking natural law. And they are required by their own rules, listen to me, by their own rules, to uphold the truth. The truth is in the written codes. The truth is there in the United States Code and in other codes, even in the UN Charter and things like that. All of these entities that have grown burdensome and people are waking up that they're corrupt, that our governments do not serve the people, that our institutions are not serving the people but serving the corporation. Do you know that in the state of Florida, it may be true in other states, but I know it's true in Florida, since 2000, the judges added something to their oath of office. Now, the oath of office for a judge, a legitimate judge operating under the Constitution, is that they are sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, they added the words to Constitution and government. They put government on an equal par with Constitution. Well, governments operate under Constitution. They're not on an equal par. So every attorney, every judge, every person working, every clerk of court and person working in the Florida legal system is actually committing treason because they have sworn an allegiance to a foreign entity called government. And government is a foreign entity because it is a corporation, privately owned, and in the case of the United States, by people that primarily do not live in the United States, are not United States citizens, either in the true sense of the term or the legal sense of the term. And yet these are the people who reap the profits and who harvest the energy of the American people through the so-called justice system, which doesn't deal in justice, it deals with injustice because it supports the criminal operation that deprives people of their natural rights through deceit and misdirection and threat of incarceration, threat of violence, etc. Now, I've watched people in their court cases that are represented by attorneys, and the attorney convinces them sometimes that they've won because they don't have to go to jail. But they haven't won if they're saddled with a whole bunch of expenses, a whole bunch of things that they're required to do. They're no longer making free choices. They're told, if you want to stay out of jail, this is what you have to do. And it actually harvests their person's energy, money, and makes them work for the institution that has enslaved them. This is the system that we're working in. This is the system that I'm raising my voice and will continue to raise my voice till people wake up and recognize that truth is simple. Common law is simple. Contracts are simple. They don't need, if you take the time to work together, and contracts should never be created unilaterally. It should be a bilateral creation where both parties create the agreement. And when both parties work to create an agreement, you'll have something that has substance to it, and you won't need somebody to interpret it, because the parties involved in the contract will know what it means because each of them contributed to its creation. I hope what I'm saying makes sense to you and helps clear up the fact that we're moving into a new paradigm. Funding in the new paradigm is like paying someone in advance. You're being given your value with a condition. And the condition only exists because we've been so brainwashed and so dumbed down and so willing to accept fraud and dishonesty as a norm that we have to have a contract or a written agreement that has an effect, that has penalties attached to it. Now, giving someone funding to accomplish something good for the world and good for humanity, and paying them in advance for that, giving them the capability of performance because the funding is there. There are no strings attached. It's not a loan. It's simply funding up front with the specification and the requirement of performance by the party receiving the funding. It's not given for nothing. It's not welfare. It's giving people what is their value, but making them take responsibility for the gift that they've been given. And the only way that there are strings attached is if you fail in performance of the duty that you've sworn to perform. If you don't do what you said you're going to do, that's fraud. Unless, as I said in the previous video, something happens that prevents you from doing it. And then you have a legitimate excuse, if you will, that common sense would say, well, when the person signed the contract, they were okay. Then they fell and broke their neck, and now they're paralyzed in a wheelchair. And obviously they can't do now what they said they were going to do before the accident. So we're not going to hold them accountable for that. They're not going to have to pay anything back because they could not perform, because it's not their fault necessarily that they had the accident and that the trauma occurred and prevented them from doing what they said they were going to do. I hope the things that I'm sharing with you make some sense and help you get a better understanding that what we're moving toward in the new paradigm is integrity, is honesty, is truth. And these are the foundations that are required for us to experience love and to be compassionate to each other and to be kind to each other and to develop a society that shows our true human nature, which is love. Our true human nature is not competition, it's cooperation. It's an interdependency. And we recognize that we are part of the web of life. And we serve that web of life freely because we want to, because we realize the wisdom of it, and because it doesn't make sense to do it any other way. This is where we need to go, but we've lived in a system of fraud and deception far too long. We need to move out of it. And I pray that some very, very wealthy people will see what I'm saying and enable us to build the bridge between the old paradigm and the new paradigm till we come to the place where we won't need contracts, we won't need money. We'll just simply serve one another from a loving heart and create a world of peace that works for all of us. Thank you for listening. Namaste.